am super curious because obviously with any adaptation, there become major changes. But what changed the most for you all from the version percolating in your brains to the one we saw on screen?
We wanted to not change anything. It's based on All Systems Red, which is a novella. We thought All Systems Red had a beautiful ending. So being a novella, we had to add some stuff for it to be 10 episodes. But luckily, Martha Wells was extremely generous with her time, and she has a generous personality. So when we would come up with stuff to add, we were never like, we need to subtract this thing from the book. Like that wasn't the case. But when we wanted to add something, we were able to call her up and say, what do you think of this idea? And sometimes she'd be like, oh, I like that idea, or what do you think of this instead? So it was really fun. That was a fun thing. And then Alexander Skarsgård, his inclination was not to make things like sweet and cuddly. So I think that the actor playing Murderbot had to really have a lot of confidence that they were going to be interesting without, on the surface, expressing a ton.
I was surprised how much we saw of Murderbot's face already. But speaking of adding to things and fleshing things out, Sanctuary Moon, to see it visualized was just such a joy.
Oh, great.
If you as yourselves, not as, any characters or anything in space, were to live out a soap opera storyline in your life, a la Sanctuary Moon, what would it be? So, like, replaced by a clone, character you thought was back from the dead, in love with a synthetic?
Wow.
Gosh.
I think it would be discovering that I'm a synthetic, but also I have a hidden twin brother who's not synthetic, who was terminally ill. So they made a clone, which was me, but then he miraculously recovered from it.
Wow.
And I've become friends with him.
I hope to see that on season 2 of Sanctuary Moon.
In love with a synthetic sounds close. I could definitely fall in love with a synthetic. That would be a short trip.
I want to play the synthetic.
Yeah.
I definitely want to. Maybe someone comes back from the dead, and we get to do that classic soap opera thing where they like take off their mask, and then they take off their mask again, and they're exactly who you thought they were.
I like that.
You know that trope?
The Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
The Inception Scooby-Doo.
Yeah,
Yes.
I guess I want to be in Scooby-Doo.
In space.
Wow, for sure leading a rebellion, like in some underground, like
super high
save
budget
the world.
soap.
What's that?
Super high budget soap.
Or like Super 8,
Yeah,
really grungy, dirty style, and like just underground, like tunnels, rebellion, save the world. Just save the world story. Your basic save the world story.
Oh, mine's way smaller. I think it'd be like burning down a building for the insurance money or something. I'm going like proper soap. I'm like EastEnders vibes. Yeah.
I think for me it would be that I was the star child whose destiny was to save the universe, something like that.
Never heard that story before.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, having Alexander being able to emote more and carry this without not always being on screen. Emotionally, for the whole series, what was the most challenging scene to get right?
I mean, I think we had such a great cast that nothing was particularly insuperable. There were moments, I think, where it was difficult for Alexander to maintain calm when Anna Konkle was being so funny. I mean, she's a character who is added to the show with Martha's seal of approval. So, like, the tricky thing with any really good piece of literature is keeping the tone right. So it's in the moments where the show is most funny that we want to make sure that this is not sort of lapsing into parody or something broad. Like, it's really rare to see science fiction that is funny without being a spoof of something. So those are the trickiest elements.
Yeah, and also sort of, there's some practical things which one doesn't think about, which is that, like, if you're using a practical suit like we did, first off, it was kind of like coming up with that thing and we loved the book cover art, and we had one of the designers for the book cover art who contributed to the costume. but also we wanted to come up with something new, and that had a logic in it, sort of. So there's a corporate logo in the design of the suit. But the thing you don't think about, which luckily we had this great costume designer for the suits, Laura Jean Shannon, is if a person's walking around in this, how are they not going to fall on their face? How are they not going to pass out because of how hot it is inside? So it was just lucky that Alexander's a little bit of a masochist and would come and do these suit fittings again and again and again. I think Alexander maybe feels like if there's not a certain amount of pain involved in something, it's not worth doing. He, in some ways, the hard thing was to really not drop the ball on there being a logic to everything while still being able to do it.